Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Tonight we're turning our attention to the quiet green companions that share our world. Plants stand rooted and still, yet their lives are full of hidden dramas and astonishing abilities. They can talk to one another, defend themselves with strange tricks, and even make sounds we are only just beginning to understand. They breathe life into the planet, and in their presence, we find both wonder and calm. Most of the time, we overlook them. We walk past trees, fields, and flowers as though they are decorations, the backdrop to the busier world of animals and people. But plants are far from passive. They sense light and gravity, they keep time, they share resources through hidden networks, and they hold memories of stress and change. Science is only just beginning to understand their world, and it's far more complex than we ever imagined. As always, if you enjoyed drifting off to science and wonder, be sure to like and subscribe, or share a thought down below. But for now, let the noise of the day fall away. Settle into stillness, breathe deeply, and allow your mind to wander among the hidden lives of plants. Let's begin. Some plants can communicate with each other through chemical signals. Though they cannot speak, plants have their own version of conversation. When a leaf is bitten by an insect, the plant releases chemical signals into the air, compounds that drift to nearby plants and warn them of danger. The neighbors, upon smelling this chemical alarm, respond by producing bitter or toxic compounds that make them harder to eat. It's as though an invisible network of messages is constantly passing back and forth across a meadow or forest. This ability isn't limited to just one species. A tree under attack may send warnings that other trees, shrubs, or even grasses can detect. To us, the greenery of a field may seem silent, but to the plants themselves, it is alive with signals. They are not isolated individuals, but participants in a complex, shared defense system, a silent chemical conversation happening all around us. Trees share nutrients underground through fungal networks. Beneath the soil, tree roots connect with fungi in vast underground webs known as mycorrhizal networks. Through these networks, trees trade sugars, minerals, and even chemical messages. A large, older tree with plenty of resources can send extra carbon to younger saplings struggling in the shade. Sick or damaged trees may receive nutrients from healthier neighbors. In some forests, researchers have found that trees appear to favor their own offspring, sending them more resources than to unrelated individuals. It's been called the wood wide web, a hidden system that makes forests function almost like a single cooperative organism. While trees may appear to stand alone above ground, below the surface they are bound together in a constant exchange of life. Each time you walk through a forest, remember that beneath your feet, thousands of hidden connections are weaving the trees into a community. Certain flowers can generate their own heat. Some flowers are not content to simply open their petals and wait. They create their own heat, warming themselves several degrees above the surrounding air. The skunk cabbage, for example, can melt through snow in early spring, producing enough heat to attract pollinators even in the cold. This warmth not only helps insects find the flowers, but may also spread the plant scent more effectively. Other species, like the giant water lily, generate heat during their nighttime blooms, creating a welcoming refuge for beetles. This surprising trick of biology requires energy, but the reward is a greater chance of reproduction. To the casual observer, a flower might seem fragile and passive. In truth, some are powerful little furnaces, bending the rules of nature to ensure their survival. Even the quietest blossom may be running its own miniature heater, pulsing with hidden energy in the dark. Roots use a type of sonar to help them navigate underground. Roots grow in darkness, searching for water and nutrients, yet somehow they manage to avoid obstacles and find pathways. One explanation comes from a surprising discovery. Roots produce faint clicking sounds as they extend through soil. These clicks are so subtle, they require sensitive instruments to detect, but they appear rhythmic and purposeful. Some researchers suggest that roots may be able to detect their own vibrations, almost like a crude form of sonar. By listening to the echoes of these clicks, roots might navigate more effectively in the hidden underground world. There's even evidence that roots can grow towards certain sound frequencies, hinting at a strange acoustic sense we don't yet understand. What seems like mindless growth may actually be a sophisticated form of exploration. Beneath every tree and flower bed lies a hidden world of roots, quietly probing the earth with sound. Some seeds can remain dormant for thousands of years and still sprout. Seeds are nature's time capsules. While most germinate within weeks or months, some can wait centuries, even millennia, before springing to life. In one remarkable case, scientists revived a lotus seed that had been buried for over 1,000 years, and it grew into a perfectly healthy plant. Another study brought back a species of Arctic flower from seeds frozen in permafrost for tens of thousands of years. Seeds achieve this by entering a state of dormancy, protecting their genetic material within hard shells and shutting down their internal chemistry almost completely. It allows them to wait out droughts, fires, or even ice ages until the right conditions return. To hold such resilience in a small, unassuming package is astonishing. A seed can be older than entire civilizations, yet still carry the spark of life, waiting patiently for its chance to grow. The corpse flower smells like rotting flesh to attract pollinators. The Titan arum, better known as the corpse flower, is famous for its towering bloom and overwhelming stench. When it flowers, it releases a powerful odor that smells uncannily like decaying meat. While the smell may repel humans, it's irresistible to the flower's chosen pollinators, flies and beetles that normally feed on carrion. The plant even warms itself to better spread the scent, mimicking the heat of decomposition. The bloom is rare, often taking years to occur, and when it does, it lasts only a couple of days. People travel from around the world to witness it, lining up to see and smell the spectacle. For the flower, though, it's simply strategy. By imitating death, it ensures life. The corpse flower is a reminder that plants can be tricksters, manipulating the senses of animals to achieve one of nature's most fundamental goals: reproduction. There are trees that can clone themselves for tens of thousands of years. Some of the oldest living organisms on Earth are not single trees, but vast colonies of clones. The quaking aspel of North America, for example, can reproduce by sending out underground shoots that sprout new trunks. Each trunk may live for a century or two, but the root system can persist for tens of thousands of years, continually generating replacements. One famous colony in Utah, known as Pando, covers over 100 acres and is thought to be at least 80,000 years old. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary forest of aspens. In reality, it is one giant organism, sharing a single genetic identity across all its trees. Clonal colonies like this blur the line between individual and collective life, revealing that what seems like many trees may, in truth, be just one ancient being stretching across time. Plants can hear vibrations from insects chewing on their leaves. Plants may not have ears, but they can detect sound in surprising ways. Researchers have found that when caterpillars chew on leaves, the vibrations they create are sensed by the plant. In response, the plant begins producing defensive chemicals that make its tissues less appetizing. What's even more remarkable is that the plant doesn't react to every vibration, just the specific patterns associated with chewing. Gentle wind or other harmless movements don't trigger the same response. This ability suggests plants have a finely tuned awareness of their environment, detecting threats not through eyes or ears, but through vibrations. Imagine a leaf recognizing the sound of being eaten and instantly preparing its defenses. It shows that plants are far more perceptive than they appear, listening in ways we can barely imagine, and always ready to respond to the world around them. Stressed plants make strange clicking sounds, and we're not sure why. When plants are under stress, they don't remain entirely silent. Using sensitive microphones, scientists have recorded sharp ultrasonic clicks coming from plants experiencing drought or injury. Tomato and tobacco plants, for instance, produce many more of these clicks when deprived of water compared to when they are healthy. To human ears, the sounds are inaudible, but once captured, they're clear and distinct. The cause is still debated. Some researchers think the clicks come from tiny bubbles forming and collapsing inside the plant's water transport system. Others wonder if they might serve as a signal to neighboring plants or even insects. Either way, the discovery challenges our assumptions. Plants may seem mute, but in reality, they produce hidden sounds when struggling. It's a strange and humbling thought. The green world around us may be filled with tiny, inaudible signals of stress. Some desert plants collect water straight from fog. In deserts where rain is scarce, survival demands extraordinary creativity. Some plants have evolved the ability to capture moisture directly from the air. Their leaves or spines are shaped and textured in ways that draw in tiny droplets of fog. As the droplets gather, they trickle down into the plant's roots, providing precious hydration even when the soil is bone dry. One example is the Namib desert beetle's favorite host plant, which uses fine hairs to pull water from passing mists. Cacti and succulents also use similar adaptations, turning fog and dew into reliable water supplies. To us, a desert may look like a barren expanse of dryness, but to these plants, every wisp of moisture is an opportunity. They show us that even in the harshest conditions, life finds a way, and sometimes the solution is to drink the air itself. Trees can create rain by releasing water vapor into the atmosphere. Forests are not just passive recipients of rain, they help make it. Through a process called transpiration, trees release vast amounts of water vapor into the air from tiny pores in their leaves. This moisture rises, cools, and condenses into clouds, eventually returning as rainfall. In dense forests like the Amazon, the effect is so strong that the trees create their own weather systems. Some scientists believe that if enough forest is lost, the rains themselves could disappear, transforming rich ecosystems into dry savannas. The next time you stand beneath a canopy, think of it as more than shade. It is a living fountain, sending invisible streams of water skyward, recycling rainfall and shaping entire climates. Trees don't simply drink the rain, they summon it, sustaining the landscapes they call home. Certain orchids trick insects by mimicking the smell of female bees. Some orchids take deception to an extraordinary level. They release chemical compounds that mimic the scent of female bees. Male bees, attracted by the familiar perfume, approach and attempt to mate with the flower. In the process, they collect or deposit pollen, completing the orchid's reproductive cycle. The mimicry is often so precise that even experienced bees are fooled. To human noses, the scent may be faint or unremarkable, but to an insect's finely tuned senses, it's irresistible. This kind of trickery is not limited to smell. Some orchids also shape their petals to resemble the bodies of female insects. It is a remarkable strategy. By exploiting the instincts of pollinators, these plants secure their survival without offering nectar in return. What looks like a simple blossom is, in reality, a cunning illusionist playing with the senses of the animal world. The world's largest living organism is a fungus connected to trees. In Oregon's Blue Mountains lies something extraordinary, a single organism stretching across nearly 4 square miles. It isn't a whale or a giant tree, but a fungus, Armillaria ostoya, also known as the honey fungus. Underground, its filaments thread through the soil, connecting to the roots of countless trees. By some estimates, this one individual weighs hundreds of tons and may be thousands of years old. To the casual eye, it appears only as small clusters of mushrooms poking through the forest floor. But beneath, it is a massive living web, quietly growing, feeding, and expanding. It demonstrates how life doesn't always reveal its scale on the surface. What seems small may be vast beyond imagining, hidden beneath the soil. This colossal organism reminds us that forests are layered worlds, with giants dwelling not only above ground but below it as well. Some flowers track the sun across the sky every day. Sunflowers are famous for their ability to follow the sun, turning their faces from east to west as it moves across the sky. This phenomenon, called heliotropism, helps maximize their exposure to light. Young sunflower buds are especially active, turning back overnight to face the dawn. Once mature, the flowers generally settle facing east, warming more quickly in the morning sunlight and attracting pollinators. Other plants, too, engage in similar movements, shifting leaves or blooms to capture the best light at different times of day. It is a gentle, daily rhythm, almost like the plants are keeping time with the sun. To us, these motions are so slow they seem invisible, but sped up, they appear like graceful dances. What seems like stillness is in fact a constant choreography, guided by light, as plants stretch and bend to follow the sky. Plants produce more oxygen than all ocean algae combined in some regions. We often hear that ocean plankton and algae produce much of Earth's oxygen, and it's true on a global scale. But in some regions, plants on land are the dominant oxygen generators. Vast forests, grasslands, and wetlands collectively exhale staggering amounts of oxygen through photosynthesis. In the Amazon basin, for example, the sheer density of plant life makes it one of the most important oxygen producers on Earth. This green lung recycles carbon dioxide into fresh air, sustaining not only local ecosystems, but the planet as a whole. While oceans cover more area, terrestrial plants can concentrate their productivity in extraordinary ways. Every tree and blade of grass contributes to this quiet abundance, creating the very air we depend on. It's humbling to remember that the breath we just took may have been shaped by forests thousands of miles away. There are plants that can survive being completely frozen. In some of the harshest environments on Earth, plants endure conditions that would kill most life. Arctic mosses and certain alpine species can survive being frozen solid for months at a time. Their cells produce protective proteins and sugars that prevent lethal ice crystals from forming inside. When the thaw comes, they revive almost instantly, resuming growth as though nothing happened. Some can even survive repeated freeze-thaw cycles without damage. This ability is not only a marvel of adaptation, but also a window into potential scientific breakthroughs, from preserving crops to protecting human tissues in medicine. While they may look fragile, these plants are among nature's toughest survivors, thriving where temperatures plunge far below freezing. Their resilience is a reminder that life can endure in places we might think of as utterly inhospitable. Cacti can live for hundreds of years with minimal water. The cactus is a master of survival in arid landscapes. With thick, waxy skins and water-storing tissues, many species can go months or even years without rainfall. Some large cacti, like the saguaro, can live for more than 2 centuries, standing tall through cycles of drought and flood. Their spines provide shade and reduce water loss, while their shallow root systems spread wide, to collect even the smallest amounts of rain. Inside, they store gallons of water in expandable tissues, turning themselves into living reservoirs. Their resilience makes them iconic symbols of the desert, embodying patience and endurance. To walk among them is to see a community of quiet giants that have learned to wait out scarcity with grace. Long after other plants would wither, the cactus endures, holding its secret supply of life in silence. Some plants glow faintly at night under the right conditions. Bioluminescence is rare in plants, but faint glows have been observed under special circumstances. Certain fungi associated with plants emit light, casting eerie green glimmers on forest floors. More recently, scientists have even engineered plants to glow by introducing genes from bioluminescent organisms. These glowing plants don't just look magical, they could one day serve as natural light sources, reducing the need for electricity. Even without engineered traits, some plant tissues fluoresce under ultraviolet light, revealing hidden patterns invisible to the naked eye. Imagine walking through a forest where leaves give off a faint, ghostly light, like lanterns of living matter. While natural glowing plants are rare, the phenomenon reminds us that life can bend the rules of chemistry to produce beauty in unexpected ways. What seems ordinary by day may hide a faint shimmer of light in the dark. Lotus seeds can germinate after more than 1,000 years. The sacred lotus is more than just a symbol of purity and rebirth. It is also one of the longest-lived seeds known to science. In one case, a lotus seed recovered from a dried lake bed in China was radiocarbon dated to be over 1,000 years old. When planted, it sprouted into a healthy lotus, as though it had only been dormant for a season. This remarkable longevity is thanks to the seed's hard, protective shell and the plant's ability to shut down metabolic processes almost completely. It is like a suspended animation, the pause button for life. For centuries, the seed lay buried and forgotten, yet it retained the spark of growth. Each lotus that blooms from such ancient beginnings carries within it not only beauty, but a story of endurance across time. Some trees can remember droughts and adjust growth accordingly. Trees record their histories in their rings. During times of drought, they form narrower rings, reflecting years of hardship. But beyond recording the past, some trees seem able to adjust their future growth based on previous stress. After experiencing drought, they often grow more cautiously in subsequent years, conserving resources as though anticipating another dry spell. This memory is written into their physiology, altering how they manage water and energy. It's a remarkable form of adaptation, blurring the line between memory and instinct. A tree that has endured hardship doesn't forget. It carries the lesson forward, shaping its survival strategy. In this way, trees embody resilience not just in the moment, but across decades or even centuries. Each trunk in a forest holds not only wood and bark, but a history of struggle, adaptation, and quiet remembrance. Plants release chemicals when under attack to warn their neighbors. When insects chew on leaves, the damage doesn't go unnoticed. Many plants respond by releasing airborne chemicals known as volatile organic compounds. These invisible plumes drift through the air, reaching nearby plants. The neighbors, upon detecting the warning, activate their own defenses, producing bitter or toxic compounds to deter herbivores before they are attacked. Some studies show that plants can distinguish between different threats, releasing one set of signals for caterpillars and another for aphids. In effect, plants broadcast distress calls into the air, forming an invisible communication network that helps entire communities survive. To us, the air may seem empty, but in reality it is filled with chemical conversations, a living, silent code of warnings and defenses that shape the fate of fields and forests. There are plants that shoot their seeds like tiny missiles. Not all plants rely on animals or wind to spread their seeds. Some launch them with explosive force. The tukmino plant, for example, develops seed pods that coil with tension as they dry. A slight touch triggers them to spring open, catapulting seeds several meters away. Other species, like the squirting cucumber, build pressure inside fruit until it bursts, ejecting seeds in a spray of liquid. This ballistic dispersal may look small-scale, but it's highly effective. By flinging their seeds outward, these plants ensure that their offspring won't compete directly with them for space and resources. To witness one of these tiny explosions is to be reminded that even in the quiet world of plants, sudden bursts of energy and motion can erupt. Every seed launch is a miniature drama, hidden inside an ordinary-looking pod, until the moment of release. Mangrove trees can filter salt out of seawater. Mangrove trees thrive along coastlines where most plants would quickly wither. They grow in salty, brackish water, yet their tissues remain fresh. To achieve this, mangroves use remarkable adaptations. Some species filter salt at the root level, allowing only fresh water to enter their vascular systems. Others push excess salt into older leaves, which eventually fall away, carrying the salt with them. Certain mangroves even excrete salt through tiny pores on their leaves, leaving behind visible crystals. This ability allows them to build vast forests along tropical shores, creating crucial habitats for fish, birds, and countless other species. To us, seawater may seem like an impossible environment for trees, but mangroves have turned it into their home. They stand as living guardians of coastlines, defying salt with ingenious biological tricks, and showing how resilience can transform an inhospitable edge of the world into a thriving ecosystem. Some carnivorous plants form traps filled with digestive liquid. Carnivorous plants have evolved to supplement their diets by consuming insects and even small animals. One of the most striking examples is the pitcher plant. Its leaves curl into deep, slippery tubes filled with digestive liquid. The rim is often slick or lined with downward-facing hairs, making escape nearly impossible once an insect slips inside. Attracted by bright colors or nectar, prey tumbles in and drowns in the fluid, where it is slowly broken down. The nutrients are then absorbed by the plant, giving it an edge in nutrient-poor soils where other plants struggle. In some tropical species, the pitchers grow so large that they can trap frogs, lizards, or even small rodents. These plants blur the line between passive greenery and active predator. They remind us that survival in nature can take forms we never expect, even in the seemingly gentle world of plants. The Amazon rainforest produces about 20% of the world's oxygen. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth, and for good reason. Its vast expanse of trees and plants exhale enormous amounts of oxygen through photosynthesis, estimated at around 1/5 of the planet's supply. Each towering tree and countless understory plants contribute to this global cycle, converting carbon dioxide into the fresh air that sustains life. Beyond oxygen, the Amazon also plays a critical role in regulating climate, storing vast amounts of carbon and recycling rainfall. Yet, its forests are fragile. Deforestation and climate change threaten to disrupt these delicate balances, with consequences that would ripple far beyond South America. When we speak of the Amazon, we're not just describing a place, we're describing a planetary system, one that breathes life into the world. To walk its shaded paths would be to step inside the very machinery of Earth's atmosphere. Some plants taste differently depending on the soil they grow in. The flavor of many plants is shaped not just by their genes, but by the soil beneath them. Grapes grown in different regions, for example, develop distinct flavors depending on the minerals, microbes, and moisture in the ground. This phenomenon, known as terroir in winemaking, means that the same variety of grape can produce vastly different wines depending on where it is cultivated. Herbs like basil, mint, and rosemary also vary in taste and aroma based on soil conditions. Even vegetables like carrots and potatoes reflect the chemistry of their environment. What seems like a single species is, in practice, countless subtle variations, each shaped by its landscape. Every bite carries the imprint of the earth it grew in, a reminder that plants are not only alive, but deeply connected to the soils and ecosystems that nurture them. Leaves can change color not only in autumn, but in response to stress. We often associate colorful leaves with the fall season, but leaves can shift their pigments for other reasons too. When stressed by drought, nutrient shortages, or damage, some plants change the balance of chemicals inside their leaves. Green chlorophyll may fade, revealing underlying yellows, oranges, or reds. In other cases, plants deliberately produce protective pigments called anthocyanins, which shield tissues from sunlight or deter herbivores. These stress-induced color changes can make a plant appear prematurely autumnal, even in summer. While beautiful to our eyes, they are often signs of struggle. The shifting hues reveal that plants are constantly responding to their environment, adjusting not only their growth, but their chemistry and appearance. A patch of sudden color in a green field may not just be a seasonal marker, it could be a signal of the hidden challenges a plant is facing. The tallest trees grow taller than 30-story buildings. In the misty forests of California, the coast redwoods stretch to dizzying heights. The tallest living tree, nicknamed Hyperion, towers over 380 feet, taller than a 30-story building. These giants grow so tall that their uppermost leaves are exposed to entirely different conditions than those of their base, with thinner air, more sunlight, and greater wind. Water must be pulled upward through trunks wider than city streets, a feat of biological engineering that pushes the limits of plant physiology. Despite their size, redwoods grow from seeds no larger than a tomato seed. Their existence reminds us that small beginnings can reach extraordinary heights. Standing at the base of a redwood, gazing upward until the crown vanishes into the mist, it feels as if you're looking at a living skyscraper, built not from steel, but from centuries of patient growth. Some flowers only bloom at night to attract moths. Not all flowers chase the daylight. Some save their beauty for the night, opening their petals in darkness when the air cools and the stars emerge. These nocturnal blooms often release powerful fragrances that carry through the still night air, attracting moths and other nighttime pollinators. Species like the moonflower or evening primrose unfurl their blossoms at dusk, creating ghostly shapes glowing pale in the moonlight. This strategy reduces competition with daytime flowers and takes advantage of pollinators active only at night. To us, the sight of a flower blooming under starlight is magical, but for the plant, it is a practical survival tactic. It reminds us that life's rhythms are diverse. While some plants bask in sunshine, others reserve their brilliance for the quiet hours when the world is asleep. Trees can grow roots above ground to breathe in swampy soil. In flooded or swampy environments, oxygen in the soil is scarce. To solve this problem, many trees develop special aerial roots that protrude above the waterline. Mangroves, for instance, send up snorkel-like structures called pneumatophores, which allow them to take in oxygen directly from the air. Bold cypresses form knobby knees that rise out of the water around their trunks, serving a similar purpose. These adaptations make it possible for trees to thrive where most would suffocate. To see a forest of mangroves or cypresses is to witness trees that have mastered both land and water, breathing through roots that seem to defy their usual function. They stand as reminders that life is endlessly adaptable, reshaping even its most basic structures to meet the challenges of its environment. Some seeds travel by hitchhiking on animals' fur. Seeds have evolved ingenious ways of moving from place to place, and one of the most effective is to hitch a ride. Many plants produce seeds covered in tiny hooks, barbs, or sticky hairs that cling to the fur of passing animals. As a deer brushes through a meadow or a fox squeezes through shrubs, seeds attach themselves and are carried for miles before finally falling off in a new location. Even humans aren't immune. Burrs that stick to clothing are seeds using the same trick. This strategy spreads offspring far beyond the shadow of the parent plant, increasing survival chances in new environments. In fact, the design of Velcro was inspired by burr seeds under a microscope. What seems like an annoying cling in your socks is actually a brilliant evolutionary invention, ensuring plants travel across landscapes without moving a step themselves. Other seeds can float across oceans and still germinate. Some plants send their seeds not on animals or the wind, but on the waves. Coconut palms, for example, produce buoyant seeds encased in tough, waterproof shells. These coconuts can drift for thousands of miles across salt water, eventually washing up on distant shores where they take root. Other species, from mangroves to certain legumes, have seeds with built-in flotation devices, natural rafts designed for long voyages. This method allows plants to colonize islands far from their original habitats, shaping entire ecosystems. Ocean currents become invisible highways for plant dispersal, carrying tiny capsules of life between continents. It's a reminder that coastlines are not barriers but gateways, constantly receiving travelers from afar. Every coconut that sprouts on a sandy beach is evidence of an incredible journey, a seed that crossed an ocean, carrying the blueprint for a new tree inside its sealed shell. Some plants fold their leaves when touched. Few plants respond to touch as dramatically as the sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica. When its leaves are brushed, they fold inward almost instantly, collapsing into a drooping posture. Within minutes, they reopen again. This movement, known as thigmonesti, may serve to startle herbivores or reduce further damage. Other plants show similar touch-sensitive behaviors, though often more slowly, adjusting leaf positions in response to contact. The mechanism relies on rapid changes in water pressure within specialized cells, effectively acting like tiny hydraulic systems. To see a plant move so quickly, reacting as if aware of your presence, challenges our usual idea of plants as unresponsive. It's easy to imagine intelligence in the sudden folding of a leaf. While we don't know exactly what the plant feels, its sensitivity reveals a surprising layer of perception in the quiet lives of greenery. Plants can count. The Venus flytrap requires 2 touches to snap. The Venus flytrap is a marvel of plant evolution. Its trap-like leaves are lined with sensitive hairs that respond to movement. But the plant doesn't close its trap after just 1 touch. It waits for 2 touches within about 20 seconds before snapping shut. This prevents the plant from wasting energy on raindrops or debris. The ability to count stimuli and time them shows a level of complexity we don't usually associate with plants. Once the trap closes, further touches trigger the release of digestive enzymes, beginning the slow breakdown of the captured insect. The Venus flytrap isn't just reacting mechanically, it is processing information, making a decision based on input. This tiny predator blurs the line between plant and animal behavior, reminding us that intelligence in nature can take many forms, some of them hidden in the swamps of the Carolinas. Ancient ferns once dominated Earth before flowering plants appeared. Long before flowers brightened the landscape, ferns ruled the Earth. During the Carboniferous period, around 100 million years ago, enormous tree ferns and their relatives dominated vast swampy forests. These plants helped shape the atmosphere by pulling in massive amounts of carbon dioxide, creating the coal deposits we still mine today. With fronds unfurling in intricate spirals, ferns spread across the globe, thriving in warm, humid climates. Flowering plants had not yet evolved, So ferns were the defining greenery of their age. Even today, ferns remain remarkably successful, with thousands of species adapted to rainforests, deserts, and even cracks in city sidewalks. When you see a fern, you're looking at a survivor, a lineage that predates flowers, fruits, and much of the modern plant kingdom. Their persistence is a living connection to Earth's deep past, a green echo of ancient worlds. Pine cones open and close depending on humidity. Pine cones may seem static, but they are finely tuned sensors of moisture. In dry conditions, their scales open wide, releasing seeds into the air. When humidity rises, the scales close tightly, protecting the seeds from dampness and rot. This movement doesn't require muscles or nerves. It happens purely through the structure of the cone's tissues, which expand and contract differently as they absorb water. Some cones are so sensitive that they open and close repeatedly with shifting weather. For the tree, this ensures seeds are only released when conditions favor dispersal. To us, a pine cone might look like a simple ornament of the forest floor, but each one is a living barometer, silently responding to the environment. Place one indoors, and you may notice it opening and closing with changes in the air, a natural instrument built for survival. There are trees that bleed red sap like blood. Some trees hold a startling surprise beneath their bark, bright red sap that looks strikingly like blood. The dragon's blood tree of the Socotra Islands and the bloodwood tree of Australia both exude crimson resin when cut or injured. For centuries, this sap has been harvested for dyes, medicines, and rituals, valued as much for its strange appearance as its practical uses. To see a tree bleed scarlet liquid is jarring, as if the plant world were imitating the animal world. Yet this vivid resin is simply a protective response, sealing wounds and deterring insects or microbes. Still, the resemblance is uncanny, giving these trees an aura of myth and mystery. Standing beneath their twisted branches, watching red sap drip onto the ground, it's easy to feel that you've stepped into a storybook landscape where plants guard their secrets in dramatic fashion. Bananas are technically berries, but strawberries are not. Botanical definitions don't always match common sense. A true berry, in scientific terms, is a fruit that develops from a single ovary and contains seeds embedded within its flesh. By this definition, bananas qualify as berries, while strawberries do not. Strawberries develop from multiple ovaries in a single flower, making them aggregate fruits. This reclassification surprises many, since strawberries look berry-like while bananas do not. Tomatoes, kiwis, and even grapes are also true berries, despite not always being thought of that way. These quirks of classification reveal how the plant kingdom often defies our expectations. What matters is not appearance, but structure and development. The next time you peel a banana, you're holding a botanical berry, while the strawberries in your bowl belong to an entirely different category, despite their name. It's a small but delightful reminder of how plants constantly rewrite our assumptions. Some plants can release caffeine to discourage rival plants. Caffeine isn't just for waking up humans. It can also act as a chemical weapon in nature. Certain plants, including coffee and cacao, release caffeine into the soil through fallen leaves or roots. This compound makes it harder for other plants to germinate nearby, reducing competition for resources. The process, called allelopathy, gives the caffeine-producing plants more space and nutrients. At the same time, the caffeine can affect insects, acting as a mild pesticide by interfering with their nervous systems. In a way, coffee plants use the same molecule to both defend themselves and manipulate their environment. The fact that humans later co-opted caffeine for stimulation is a fascinating twist of evolution. For the plant, it was never about lattes, it was about survival, using chemistry to tilt the balance of power in crowded ecosystems. Bamboo can grow almost a meter in a single day. Bamboo holds the record as one of the fastest growing plants in the world. Under ideal conditions, certain species can grow nearly a meter in just 24 hours. This astonishing pace comes from specialized tissues that stretch and elongate rapidly, rather than forming new cells one by one. The result is a plant that can shoot skyward seemingly overnight. In many parts of the world, bamboo provides essential materials for construction, tools, and even food. Its speed makes it a renewable resource, able to regrow quickly after harvest. Watching bamboo sprout after a rainstorm, it's easy to imagine the ground itself pushing upward. Though it looks like a tree, bamboo is actually a giant grass, one that grows with a vigor few plants can match. Its relentless rise is a testament to the power of adaptation in the plant kingdom. Some desert flowers bloom only once in decades. In the world's harshest deserts, some flowers take patience to the extreme. Certain species remain hidden as seeds for years, waiting for the rare combination of heavy rains and favorable conditions. When the moment finally comes, they erupt into breathtaking carpets of color, covering otherwise barren landscapes. In Chile's Atacama Desert, this phenomenon is known as the Desierto Florido, or flowering desert, where once in decades blooms transform the desert floor into a living mosaic. These short-lived displays last only a few weeks before fading back into dormancy. For the plants, this strategy ensures survival, conserving energy until success is most likely. For humans lucky enough to witness it, the sight is unforgettable, a reminder that even in the most lifeless-looking places, beauty and resilience lie just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Plants can recognize their own kin and grow differently around relatives. Research shows that some plants can distinguish between close relatives and unrelated neighbors. For example, certain wildflowers grow taller and more competitive when surrounded by strangers, but behave less aggressively when planted among siblings. They may adjust root growth, leaf spread, or chemical defenses depending on who is nearby. This kin recognition suggests a level of awareness we don't usually associate with plants. It prevents family groups from exhausting shared resources while still allowing them to outcompete outsiders. Scientists are still uncovering how plants achieve this, whether through chemical signals in the soil, subtle cues in light reflection, or other hidden processes. Whatever the mechanism, the result is clear. Plants are capable of remarkable discrimination, treating relatives differently from strangers. It's a quiet, green reminder that cooperation and competition often exist side by side, even among species we once thought incapable of such choices. There are trees that can withstand fire and regrow from ashes. For many trees, fire is not the end, but the beginning of renewal. Species like eucalyptus, sequoias, and certain oaks have evolved thick bark that protects their living tissues from flames. Others hold dormant buds beneath their bark or deep in their roots, ready to sprout after the fire passes. In fact, some trees require fire to trigger germination, relying on the heat to crack open seed coats. Far from being purely destructive, fire can clear competition, recycle nutrients, and open new space for growth. To walk through a charred forest and see fresh green shoots emerging from blackened trunks is to witness resilience written in the language of fire. These trees don't merely survive destruction, they use it, weaving flames into their life cycle and showing that even in devastation, renewal is always possible. Some roots grow upward, searching for oxygen in flooded soil. In swampy or waterlogged environments, oxygen is scarce underground. To cope, certain plants and trees grow specialized roots that reach upward instead of down. Known as pneumatophores, these aerial roots rise like snorkels from the soil, allowing the plant to absorb oxygen directly from the air. Mangroves, for instance, create dense forests of breathing roots, each one a lifeline in otherwise suffocating mud. Bald cypress trees in North America grow distinctive knees around their trunks, thought to serve a similar purpose. These adaptations allow plants to thrive in wetlands that would suffocate ordinary roots. What looks like a tangle of twisted, exposed wood is actually an elegant solution to a hidden problem, finding breath in waterlogged worlds. It's a reminder that survival often depends on reimagining even the most basic rules of growth. Leaves have tiny pores that breathe in carbon dioxide. The surface of a leaf may look smooth, but under a microscope, it's dotted with thousands of tiny openings called stomata. These pores act like mouths, opening and closing to let carbon dioxide in for photosynthesis. At the same time, they release oxygen and water vapor, helping regulate the plant's temperature and hydration. The movement of these pores is finely tuned, responding to light, humidity, and even internal chemical signals. Without stomata, plants couldn't capture carbon or release the oxygen we depend on. Each breath we take is linked to countless invisible openings on the leaves around us. It's astonishing to realize that the entire balance of Earth's atmosphere hinges on microscopic pores, so small they're invisible to the naked eye, yet so numerous they blanket the planet in a living skin of breath. Some plants eject pollen explosively to reach pollinators. Pollination doesn't always happen gently. In certain plants, pollen is released in sudden bursts of force, catapulting onto visiting insects. Orchids, for example, often use spring-loaded mechanisms to snap packets of pollen onto a pollinator's body. Other plants build up tension in their anthers until the slightest touch sends clouds of pollen flying. This explosive strategy ensures that pollen is delivered efficiently, sticking to the pollinator before it can escape. To a bee or moth, the experience might be startling. One moment a flower is still, the next it's launching a payload. For the plant, it's an ingenious way to maximize reproductive success. What appears to us as serene blossoms often conceal hidden machinery, coiled with energy, waiting for the perfect moment to release. Even in their quiet beauty, flowers are engineers of motion, timing, and precision. Orchids produce the world's tiniest seeds, like dust. Orchids are renowned for their beauty, but they are also remarkable for their seeds. Each seed is so small and lightweight that it resembles a speck of dust. Unlike most seeds, orchid seeds contain almost no stored nutrients. Instead, they rely on symbiotic fungi in the soil to provide the resources needed for germination. This partnership allows orchids to produce thousands, sometimes millions of seeds at once, sending them adrift on the wind. Their minuscule size means they can travel great distances, colonizing new environments far from the parent plant. To the naked eye, an orchid seed is nearly invisible, yet it carries the potential for one of the most intricate and delicate flowers on Earth. This strategy, producing vast numbers of tiny seeds and trusting in chance and fungi, highlights nature's willingness to experiment with extremes. Some trees keep their leaves year-round by producing antifreeze proteins. In cold climates, most trees drop their leaves to survive winter. But evergreens like pines and spruces have a different strategy. They produce specialized proteins that act like antifreeze, preventing ice crystals from forming inside their cells. Combined with waxy coatings and needle-like leaves that reduce water loss, this adaptation allows them to remain green through snow and frost. By keeping their leaves year-round, they can photosynthesize whenever conditions permit, even in the coldest months. To us, the sight of dark green needles against white snow feels timeless, a symbol of endurance. Behind that endurance lies chemistry honed over millennia, enabling life to resist the freezing grip of winter. Every evergreen forest is a living demonstration of how plants bend the rules of survival, holding onto their leaves when all others have fallen. Plants invented photosynthesis more than 2 billion years ago. The process that fuels nearly all life on Earth, photosynthesis, was invented by ancient plants and their microbial ancestors over 2 billion years ago. By capturing sunlight and using it to turn carbon dioxide and water into sugars, these organisms transformed the planet. The oxygen they released accumulated in the atmosphere, paving the way for animal life. Before photosynthesis, Earth's skies contained almost no oxygen. Afterward, they were forever changed. Every breath we take traces back to that ancient innovation. Today, photosynthesis continues in leaves, algae, and cyanobacteria, all around us, quietly sustaining the balance of air and energy. It is easy to overlook a patch of green, but within it lies the same process that reshaped the entire world. Plants didn't just adapt to their environment, they reinvented it, creating the conditions that allowed life as we know it to exist. The Amazon has trees that release clouds of fragrant chemicals. Within the Amazon rainforest, countless trees and plants release volatile organic compounds into the air. These invisible chemicals serve many purposes, deterring herbivores, attracting pollinators, or protecting leaves from heat and light. In high concentrations, they create the forest's characteristic fragrance, a complex mix of scents that hovers above the canopy. But these emissions do more than shape smell. They interact with particles in the atmosphere, influencing cloud formation and even rainfall. In other words, the Amazon not only breathes oxygen, but also perfumes and reshapes the very air above it. Standing within such a forest, surrounded by unseen chemical plumes, one realizes how profoundly plants shape their environment. They are not passive occupants of the earth, but active engineers of air, water, and climate, creators of invisible clouds that rise from their leaves like breath. Some vines climb by feeling nearby surfaces. Vines live for light, but instead of growing upright on their own, many seek support. They do this by reaching out with tendrils, slender extensions that sway until they brush against something solid. When contact is made, cells on the touched side grow more slowly, while those on the opposite side elongate, curling the tendril tightly around the support. This gives the vine a foothold, allowing it to climb toward the canopy. Some species can even distinguish between rough and smooth surfaces, preferring the textures that give them the best grip. To us, it looks like a slow embrace, but for the vine, it is survival, a steady climb toward light. Watching a tendril curl around a pole or tree branch is like witnessing touch translated into growth, proof that plants can sense their world in ways that feel almost like exploration. A single oak tree can support thousands of different species. An oak tree is not just an individual organism, it is a bustling ecosystem. Its branches provide homes for birds, squirrels, and insects. Its bark shelters fungi, mosses, and lichens. Beneath the ground, its roots connect to sprawling fungal networks that nourish countless microorganisms. Studies show that a mature oak can support thousands of species at once, from the smallest mites to large mammals. Each season brings a new layer of life, flowers for pollinators, acorns for animals, falling leaves that enrich the soil. The oak's sheer size and longevity make it a foundation species, one that holds an entire community together. Standing beneath such a tree, it is humbling to realize how many lives depend on it, and how much history it has seen. To protect an oak is to protect an entire living web, woven over centuries in wood and leaf. Some plants have transparent leaves to capture more sunlight. Most leaves are opaque, but some plants have evolved translucent or even transparent leaves that act like natural light windows. This adaptation allows sunlight to penetrate deeper into the plant, reaching lower tissues that would otherwise be shaded. One example is the window plant, Lithops, a succulent that grows in deserts. Its leaves are mostly buried underground, with only the translucent tops exposed. Light enters through these windows and reaches the photosynthetic tissues hidden safely below the soil, protecting them from harsh heat and grazing animals. Other plants use similar tricks in dense forests where light is scarce, allowing every photon to be used efficiently. Transparent leaves blur the line between plant and crystal, turning sunlight into a glowing resource that penetrates their bodies. It's a quiet reminder that even the shape and structure of a leaf can be a sophisticated survival strategy. Trees in cities grow faster but die younger. Urban environments create unusual conditions for trees. With higher carbon dioxide levels, warmer temperatures, and often abundant water from irrigation, city trees tend to grow faster than their forest counterparts. They produce more leaves, add more rings each year, and reach maturity sooner. But this accelerated growth comes at a cost. The stresses of pollution, compacted soil, heat, and limited space shorten their lifespans dramatically. A city tree may live only a few decades, while the same species in a forest could survive for centuries. Despite their shorter lives, city trees play crucial roles, cooling streets, filtering air, and providing refuge for wildlife. Each one is a hard-working ally in the urban landscape, growing quickly to meet human needs. Their shortened lifespans remind us of the trade-offs of life in human-dominated spaces, where survival requires speed at the expense of longevity. Leaves can create tiny electric fields as water moves inside them. Inside every leaf, water flows upward from the roots through a network of microscopic tubes. As it moves, this water creates faint electrical charges. The result is a tiny electric field surrounding the leaf. These fields are so weak that we don't notice them, but bees can. Research shows that bees sense the electric charges of flowers and use them to determine whether a bloom has recently been visited. In this way, a plant's electrical activity becomes part of its communication with pollinators. It's astonishing to think that the rustle of leaves is not only physical but also electrical, broadcasting invisible signals into the air. What seems like a simple green surface is alive with physics, guiding interactions between plants and insects. In every leaf, water, light, and electricity weave together, turning silent growth into a hidden language of fields and charges. Some desert plants store water in swollen stems or roots. In deserts, survival depends on holding onto water whenever it appears. Many plants have evolved thickened stems, trunks, or roots that act as reservoirs. Cacti store water in their fleshy tissues, expanding after rain and slowly using the reserves during drought. Some trees, like the baobab, can swell their trunks with thousands of liters of water, turning themselves into natural cisterns. Underground, certain desert plants develop massive tubers that serve as hidden wells. These adaptations allow them to outlast months or years of dryness, standing green when all else has withered. To humans, these water stores have sometimes meant survival too, as people learn to tap them in emergencies. Each swollen stem or root is a testimony to patience and preparation, showing that in the desert, endurance is built on careful savings, drop by drop, stored in living vaults of tissue. The Rafflesia flower can grow over 3 feet across. Hidden in Southeast Asian forests, the Rafflesia flower emerges like something from another world. With petals that can span more than 3 feet, it is one of the largest flowers on Earth. Its reddish, mottled surface resembles raw meat, and its scent, often compared to rotting flesh, attracts flies that serve as pollinators. Rafflesia lacks leaves, stems, and roots of its own. Instead, It lives as a parasite inside host vines, drawing nutrients until it bursts forth in a colossal bloom. The flower is rare and short-lived, sometimes appearing only once every several years. For those who encounter it, the sight is unforgettable. A single blossom larger than a dinner table, smelling of decay, yet serving the simple purpose of reproduction. Rafflesia reminds us that plants can be as bizarre and dramatic as any creature, rewriting our expectations of what a flower can be. Some mosses can survive complete dehydration for years. Mosses are among nature's hardiest survivors. Certain species can dry out almost completely, losing nearly all their water, and still live on. In this desiccated state, their metabolism slows to a near halt. Years later, with a splash of rain, they revive within hours, unfurling and turning green again. This extraordinary resilience is made possible by protective proteins and sugars that shield cells from damage during dehydration. These mosses can colonize harsh environments where few other plants endure: rocky cliffs, arid deserts, even the surfaces of old buildings. They are pioneers, laying the groundwork for other life to follow. To see a patch of moss spring back from lifeless brown to vivid green after a rain shower is to witness resurrection in miniature. Moss shows us that life's endurance is often quiet and small, but no less astonishing. Trees can sleep at night, folding branches slightly downward. Recent studies using laser scanners have revealed a surprising fact. Many trees change posture overnight. Their branches and leaves droop slightly as evening falls, then lift again with the morning light. The movement is subtle, often just a few centimeters, but consistent. Scientists think this nightly sleep may help conserve energy or reset the plant's internal water systems. It reflects the influence of circadian rhythms, internal clocks that govern many plant processes. To imagine an entire forest slowly lowering itself at night is to glimpse another layer of plant life hidden from ordinary perception. While we rest, so do they, shifting quietly in the dark. When morning comes, their branches rise again to meet the sun. It's a gentle rhythm, echoing the cycles of life across the natural world. Certain plants thrive on volcanic ash and lava fields. After a volcanic eruption, the landscape seems barren and lifeless, covered in ash and hardened lava. Yet within years, plants begin to return. Some species are specially adapted to these conditions, capable of rooting in nutrient-poor, unstable soils. Pioneer plants like ferns, lichens, and hardy grasses break down rock and add organic matter, preparing the way for others. In Hawaii, for example, ohia trees are often the first to colonize fresh lava flows, sprouting bright red flowers against black rock. Volcanic soils eventually become among the most fertile in the world, supporting lush forests and agriculture. Plants that thrive here remind us that destruction can be the seed of renewal. They embody resilience, transforming fire and stone into gardens and turning desolation into life. Some plants can change sex depending on conditions. For many plants, sex isn't fixed. Some species can switch between being male and female depending on environmental conditions. In certain trees, if resources are scarce, they may produce only pollen, conserving energy by avoiding the costly task of producing seeds. When conditions improve, the same tree may switch back to producing fruit and seeds. Other plants alternate from season to season or even change multiple times throughout their lives. This flexibility increases the odds of reproduction no matter what challenges arise. It shows that in plants, sex is not a rigid identity, but a survival strategy shaped by the demands of the environment. Where we might expect fixed categories, nature has written in adaptability. Plants demonstrate that reproduction is not just about persistence, but about responding intelligently to the shifting rhythms of the world around them. There are trees that drip poisonous sap, strong enough to blister skin. The manchineel tree, found in parts of the Caribbean and Central America, looks deceptively inviting, with glossy leaves and small, apple-like fruits. But nearly every part of it is dangerously toxic. Its sap contains powerful chemicals that can cause blistering burns on skin. Even standing beneath the tree during rain can be hazardous, as drops of water mixed with sap may cause painful reactions. Burning its wood releases fumes that can damage lungs. For this reason, manchineel trees are often marked with warning signs or red paint to keep people away. Despite their dangers, these trees play roles in stabilizing coastal soils and providing shelter for wildlife. They are a stark reminder that beauty can conceal danger, and that in the plant kingdom, defense strategies can be as dramatic as those in the animal world, sometimes hidden in plain sight. Grasslands once covered more than a third of Earth's land. Before widespread agriculture and urban expansion, vast grasslands stretched across continents. Prairies, savannas, and steppes supported immense herds of grazing animals and countless other species. These ecosystems once covered more than one-third of Earth's land surface. Today, many grasslands have been ploughed under or fragmented, but they remain vital. Grasslands store enormous amounts of carbon in their deep root systems, often more than forests of similar size. They also stabilize soils, reduce erosion, and regulate water cycles. For countless species, from bison to elephants to migratory birds, grasslands provide critical habitat. When we picture ecosystems, we often think of forests or oceans, but grasses have shaped the planet in their own quiet way. They show us that life's abundance doesn't always grow tall sometimes. It stretches low and wide, covering the earth like a living skin of green. Some plants produce natural rubber or latex. Before synthetic materials, humans relied on plants for rubber. Species like the para rubber tree produce latex, a milky fluid that, when processed, becomes elastic and durable. This natural material has been essential for making everything from tires to medical gloves. Other plants, such as dandelions and guayule, also produce latex, offering alternative sources for rubber. In the plant, latex serves as a defense system. When tissue is damaged, the sticky fluid seals wounds and deters insects with its bitter or toxic compounds. To us, latex is a versatile resource. To plants, it's protection. The next time you see a dandelion snap and release a drop of milky sap, you're watching the same chemical defense that gave rise to entire industries. Rubber is not just a product of factories. It begins as a simple survival trick, flowing through plant veins. Trees can trap bubbles of ancient air inside amber. Amber, the fossilized resin of ancient trees, often preserves insects, leaves, and other fragments of prehistoric life. But inside the hardened resin, scientists have also found tiny bubbles of air, sealed off for millions of years. These pockets capture the atmosphere as it once was, offering clues to Earth's ancient climate. By analyzing the gases in amber, researchers can estimate the composition of air in deep time, how much oxygen and carbon dioxide surrounded the dinosaurs, for example. It's extraordinary to think that trees, by simply exuding sticky resin, created time capsules of the very breath of ancient worlds. Every piece of amber is more than a gemstone. It is a record of Earth's atmosphere, sealed away in golden light, carrying whispers of forests that vanished long before humans appeared. Some aquatic plants have leaves that repel water completely. Water lilies and lotus leaves have surfaces that seem almost magical. Drops of water bead up and roll off, leaving the surface perfectly dry. This phenomenon, known as the lotus effect, comes from microscopic structures on the leaf that prevent water from spreading. As the droplets roll, they also collect dirt and dust, keeping the leaf clean. This adaptation helps aquatic plants survive by reducing the risk of fungal infections and ensuring that sunlight reaches the photosynthetic tissues beneath. The effect has even inspired human technology, leading to water-repellent coatings and self-cleaning materials. To us, it looks like a simple trick of nature. To the plant, it is survival, a way to stay clean and dry while floating in watery habitats. A single leaf, glistening with perfect droplets, shows how biology and physics combine in unexpected elegance. Certain flowers can launch insects into the air during pollination. In some plants, pollination is not a passive affair. The mountain laurel, for example, has petals that act like tiny catapults. When an insect lands and disturbs the flower, the petals release stored tension, flinging the insect outward while dusting it with pollen. The surprised pollinator then carries the pollen to the next bloom. Other species use similar spring-loaded mechanisms, ensuring that pollen transfer happens with force and precision. To us, flowers may look delicate, but beneath their petals lies hidden engineering, storing energy until just the right moment. Watching an insect launched from a flower is a reminder that pollination can be both cooperative and startling. Plants may not move quickly like animals, but they have mastered motion in sudden, surprising bursts, making sure reproduction is never left to chance. Some fungi and plants share light energy and symbiosis. While most symbioses between plants and fungi involve nutrients from the soil, scientists have discovered species that actually share light energy. Certain fungi living inside plant tissues can capture light and transfer part of its energy to their hosts. In return, the plant supplies sugars the fungi cannot make on their own. This unusual partnership expands the possibilities of photosynthesis, turning two very different organisms into collaborators in energy capture. The discovery is recent, and researchers are still unraveling how widespread this phenomenon might be. It challenges our neat categories of life, showing that the boundary between plant and fungus is not as rigid as we thought. In some cases, the green world is not working alone. It is working in tandem with hidden partners, blending talents in ways that expand the possibilities of survival. Bamboo forests can reduce noise pollution like natural sound barriers. The dense, hollow stalks of bamboo create more than just shade and greenery. When planted in thick groves, bamboo forests act as natural sound absorbers. The hollow stems scatter and muffle sound waves, reducing noise from roads or cities. This makes bamboo a valuable tool in urban planning, where it is sometimes used to create living noise barriers. Beyond their acoustic properties, bamboo forests also stabilize soil, prevent erosion, and provide habitat for countless species. To stand inside such a grove is to step into a world of quiet. The air feels still, and outside sounds soften into a gentle hush. It's a reminder that plants shape not only the look of a landscape, but its soundscape as well. Bamboo doesn't just grow, it transforms the environment, creating havens of calm amid noise. Some seeds germinate only after passing through an animal's gut. For certain plants, survival depends on a strange journey. Their seeds are designed to be eaten by animals, passing unharmed through digestive systems before being deposited elsewhere. Along the way, the tough seed coat is scarred or softened by stomach acids, preparing it to sprout. This process, called endozootury, ensures seeds are spread far from the parent plant, often with the added benefit of being deposited in nutrient-rich droppings. Many fruits we enjoy, from berries to cherries, evolved to attract animals for this very purpose. It's a partnership written in sweetness and color, offering food in exchange for transport. To us, fruit is nourishment. To the plant, it is a ticket to new ground, using animals as couriers in a cycle of life that has been running for millions of years. Ancient trees once grew near the South Pole. Today, Antarctica is a frozen desert, but millions of years ago, it was home to lush forests. Fossil evidence shows that giant trees, including relatives of today's conifers, once thrived near the South Pole. These trees endured months of darkness in winter and months of unbroken daylight in summer, adapting to extreme light cycles. Some may have grown in dense stands like modern boreal forests, shaping ecosystems where dinosaurs roamed among the trunks. As the climate shifted and ice took over, these forests disappeared, leaving only petrified remains. To walk among Antarctic fossils is to see the echoes of a vanished world, a continent that was once green, alive, and thriving. The discovery reminds us that Earth's climate and ecosystems have never been static. Even the coldest, most barren landscapes may have once been vibrant with trees and life. Some plants make fruits so toxic they can kill large animals. Not all fruits are meant to be eaten. Some are powerful defenses disguised as food. The pom-pom tree of Southeast Asia produces large, attractive fruits filled with compounds deadly to humans and animals. The strychnine tree bears seeds containing one of the most notorious poisons in history. These toxic fruits ensure that only the right animals, often specialized species that can tolerate the toxins, act as dispersers. Others are simply deterrents, keeping the plant safe from being stripped bare. To us, fruit often means sweetness and nourishment. But in nature, it is a strategy, sometimes a lure, sometimes a trap. Toxic fruits remind us that beauty can conceal danger, and that in the quiet arms race between plants and animals, chemistry is as potent as teeth and claws. Leaves can angle themselves to avoid overheating in summer. Leaves don't just passively sit in the sun. Many plants actively adjust their angle to reduce heat stress. In intense sunlight, leaves may tilt sideways or droop downward, minimizing the area directly exposed. Some species, like the prayer plant, move their leaves daily, lifting them at night and lowering them during the day. By controlling their angle, plants prevent overheating and reduce water loss through evaporation. The movement is subtle, almost invisible in real time, but sped up it appears as a graceful daily dance. This flexibility demonstrates how finely tuned plants are to their environment. A forest canopy isn't just a static ceiling of green, it is a shifting mosaic, each leaf adjusting to balance light, heat, and water. Even in still air, the canopy is alive with quiet motion, as plants continually find their perfect angle to survive. Some plants detect gravity and always grow roots downward. Even in total darkness, seeds know which way is up and down. Plants sense gravity through specialized cells that contain tiny, dense structures called statoliths. These particles settle inside the cell, signaling the direction of gravity. Roots respond by growing downward, while shoots grow upward, ensuring the plant orients itself correctly. This process, known as gravitropism, allows seedlings to push through soil in the right direction, even when conditions are confusing. Without this ability, roots might grow sideways or upward, leaving the plant unable to anchor or absorb water. To us, it looks automatic, but beneath the surface, it is a sophisticated biological compass. Each root tip, buried in darkness, constantly monitors its position in the pull of Earth. It's a reminder that plants are not blind wanderers. They are navigators, guided by forces we rarely stop to consider. Certain trees keep a memory of lightning strikes in their rings. When lightning strikes a tree, the energy can scar it for life. The intense heat and force often damage tissues beneath the bark, leaving behind wounds that alter how the tree grows. As the tree continues to add new rings each year, the scars remain as permanent reminders, visible in cross-sections long after the strike. Dendrochronologists, scientists who study tree rings, can identify these events centuries later, reconstructing the history of storms in a region. Some trees even survive multiple lightning strikes, carrying several scars in their wood. Standing in a forest, it's easy to overlook these hidden histories. Yet every trunk may hold records of fire, drought, and lightning, preserved in silent layers of growth. Trees are not just witnesses to time. They are archives, storing stories of the sky itself in rings of living wood. Grass can release a smell when cut that signals distress. That fresh green scent we notice when grass is freshly cut isn't just pleasant for humans. It's a chemical cry. When damaged, grass releases volatile compounds known as green leaf volatiles. These chemicals help the plant defend itself, deterring herbivores and even attracting predators of the insects that feed on it. They may also serve as warnings to neighboring plants, signaling them to ramp up defenses. To us, the smell evokes summer lawns or countryside fields. But to the grass, it is a byproduct of injury. What we perceive as refreshing fragrance is actually a silent alarm system, drifting invisibly through the air. It's a reminder that plants are constantly responding to their environment, broadcasting signals we rarely notice, and that even the most familiar scents may carry hidden meanings. Some desert plants reflect sunlight with silvery hairs. In scorching deserts, some plants defend themselves from heat by coating their leaves with fine silvery hairs. These hairs reflect sunlight, reducing the amount of heat absorbed, while also trapping a thin layer of cooler air near the leaf surface. Plants like sagebrush and desert lavender wear this shimmering armor, appearing pale or silver in the blazing sun. The adaptation not only prevents overheating, but also reduces water loss, critical for survival in arid environments. To us, the silvery sheen looks beautiful, giving the desert a ghostly glow. But for the plant, it is life-saving insulation. These adaptations remind us that survival often lies in the smallest details, from the angle of a leaf to the hairs on its surface, all working together to endure a world of extremes. There are plants that produce edible roots weighing hundreds of pounds. Some plants hide enormous treasures underground. Yams, cassava, and other root crops can grow to extraordinary sizes, storing vast amounts of starch. In parts of Africa, giant yams have been recorded weighing hundreds of pounds, large enough to feed entire families for weeks. These swollen roots act as food reserves for the plant, helping it survive droughts and seasonal changes. For humans, they have become staple crops, sustaining millions of people across the globe. Digging up such a root can feel like unearthing a buried boulder, a mass of nutrition hidden in the soil. These plants show how life prepares for scarcity by banking resources underground. The result is not just survival for the plant, but sustenance for countless human communities who have learned to cultivate and harvest these massive, life-giving roots. Trees can release chemicals that stunt the growth of competitors. Not all plants are cooperative. Some trees release chemicals into the soil that slow or prevent the growth of nearby species. This process, known as allelopathy, helps the tree secure resources by reducing competition. Black walnut trees are notorious for this, producing a compound called juglone that inhibits many plants from growing in their shadow. For the walnut, it ensures more water and nutrients for itself. For surrounding plants, it can be a silent killer. These chemical strategies shape the makeup of entire forests and fields, determining which species thrive and which fail. What looks like peaceful coexistence among trees is often the battlefield of invisible toxins. The lesson is humbling. Even in the stillness of a forest, competition is fierce, and survival sometimes comes down to the chemistry flowing through roots and leaves. Some flowers bloom only once in a human lifetime. Among the most dramatic plants are those that save their energy for decades, only to bloom once before dying. The century plant, Agave americana, spends years storing energy in its thick leaves. When it finally flowers, it sends up a towering stalk that can reach over 20 feet, covered in blossoms. After this single, spectacular event, the plant dies, leaving behind seeds or offsets to carry on its lineage. Other species, like certain bamboos, also bloom only once in decades or even centuries, often synchronizing across entire regions. To witness such a bloom is rare, a fleeting glimpse into a plant's hidden timetable. For the plant, the strategy ensures that when it does bloom, it makes the most of its effort. To us, it is a reminder that patience and timing are woven into nature, sometimes on scales far beyond a human lifespan. Mosses were among the first plants to colonize land. Hundreds of millions of years ago, Earth's land masses were bare rock, battered by wind and rain. The first pioneers to claim this new territory were mosses and their relatives. Lacking roots, flowers, or seeds, these simple plants spread across damp surfaces, slowly breaking down stone and creating the first soils. By trapping moisture and adding organic matter, mosses paved the way for larger plants and eventually for entire ecosystems. Today, they still thrive in places where few other plants can survive, on cliffs, rooftops, and frozen tundra. Their resilience is matched by their history. When you see a patch of moss glowing green after rain, you're looking at descendants of the plants that made life on land possible. In their small, delicate forms lies a story of Earth's great transition, from a barren world to one rich with forests, fields, and life. Certain plants change leaf shape as they grow. Some plants don't keep the same leaf form throughout their lives. Instead, their leaves change dramatically as they mature, a phenomenon called heteroblasty. Eucalyptus trees, for instance, begin with round, opposite leaves that gradually transform into long, narrow, alternating leaves as the tree ages. Passionflower vines also shift leaf shapes as they climb, sometimes producing several distinct forms on the same plant. These changes often reflect shifting needs. Young plants may need more light capture near the ground, while mature ones optimize for efficiency higher up. Leaf transformations can also help deter herbivores, making it harder for them to specialize on a single form. To see one plant wearing multiple disguises across its life is to glimpse adaptation in motion. It's as though the plant rewrites its own identity as it grows, showing that even something as simple as a leaf is never fixed. Some trees can store more carbon than entire forests of smaller plants. Not all trees are equal in their impact. Some species, particularly giant tropical trees, hold staggering amounts of carbon in their immense trunks and branches. A single mature tree can lock away more carbon than an entire stand of smaller trees combined. In rainforests, these giants are often centuries old, their growth representing centuries of captured carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Losing even one has outsized consequences, both for carbon storage and for the ecosystems it anchors. Protecting these giants means protecting entire networks of life, from insects to birds to mammals, all of which depend on their presence. When you stand beneath one of these towering trees, you're not just looking at a plant, you're looking at a massive reservoir of carbon, a living climate regulator. Their size isn't just awe-inspiring, it is vital to the balance of the Earth itself. Plants can detect the direction of wind and adjust growth. Plants are not passive in the face of wind. Many can sense the direction and force of airflow, adjusting their growth accordingly. When wind is strong, Stems grow shorter and thicker, increasing stability. Some leaves reorient themselves to reduce drag, while others flutter to minimize damage. These responses are guided by mechanical signals, tiny shifts in pressure and bending that trigger changes in growth hormones. Over time, the plant takes on a shape suited to its windy environment. This ability is especially critical in open fields, mountains, and coastlines, where exposure is constant. To us, wind in the trees may seem like random movement, but to the plants, it is information, guiding growth decisions at every stage. In their swaying and bending lies a subtle intelligence, adjusting form to endure the invisible forces that press against them every day. Some desert plants keep roots deeper than a 10-story building. In arid landscapes where surface water is rare, some plants dig deep, astonishingly deep. Mesquite trees, for example, have roots that have been recorded more than 150 feet underground, deeper than a 10-story building is tall. These roots tap hidden aquifers, allowing the tree to survive in places where the surface looks barren. Such depth also anchors the tree against storms and erosion, making it nearly impossible to uproot. To imagine roots stretching into darkness that far is to see the desert in a new way. The real tree is not only what stands above ground, but also the vast network below. These deep-rooted plants show us that survival often depends on unseen persistence, stretching toward hidden resources, sustaining life against all odds. The Amazon has walking palm trees that slowly move across the forest. In the Amazon rainforest, the walking palm has earned a curious reputation. According to local law, it can walk by growing new roots in the direction of sunlight while letting older roots die off. Over years, this gradual process may shift the tree's position by a few centimeters to even several meters. While scientists debate how much true movement occurs, the adaptation certainly helps the tree adjust to shifting light in the dense canopy. The idea of a tree inching its way through the forest may sound like myth, but it captures a real truth. Plants are not fixed in place as firmly as we imagine. Through slow adjustments, they can respond to opportunities, finding light where they need it most. The walking palm is a reminder that even rooted beings have ways of reaching for new horizons. Certain seeds sprout only after fire scorches the soil. For some plants, fire is not a threat, but a signal. In ecosystems like chaparral and pine forests, certain seeds remain dormant until exposed to the heat or chemicals produced by wildfire. The flames crack open tough seed coats or trigger compounds in the smoke that stimulate germination. This adaptation ensures that seedlings emerge in the nutrient-rich ash beds left behind, with reduced competition from other plants. Far from destroying these ecosystems, fire becomes an essential part of their renewal cycle. When you see new green shoots pushing up from blackened earth, you're witnessing nature's resilience, plants that depend on destruction to begin again. Their strategy transforms catastrophe into opportunity, weaving fire into the rhythm of life. Some plants can trap small animals for nutrients without being carnivorous. Carnivorous plants are famous for eating insects, but some non-carnivorous species also trap small animals, accidentally or incidentally, in ways that still benefit them. Certain bromeliads, for example, collect water in their leaf bases, forming miniature pools where insects and even small frogs may drown. As the animals decompose, nutrients leach into the water and are absorbed by the plant. Other sticky plants, like some wildflowers, trap insects on their surfaces, not to digest them directly, but to reduce herbivory or gain indirect nutrient boosts. These aren't true carnivores, but they blur the boundary, showing how opportunistic plants can be. They remind us that survival strategies don't fit into neat categories. Even plants we think of as gentle may quietly benefit from the fates of animals that cross their paths. There are trees whose branches grow fused together like living bridges. In the rainforests of India, people have learned to guide the aerial roots of fig trees into living bridges. Over decades, the roots intertwine and fuse, forming structures strong enough for people to walk across. Some of these living bridges stretch over 100 feet and last for centuries, growing stronger with time. The trees themselves adapt naturally, sending down new roots that reinforce the structure. These bridges are both human-made and living, a collaboration between people and plants. To walk across one is to step onto a structure that is simultaneously architecture and organism, rooted in both culture and biology. They are powerful reminders that plants are not just scenery. They can be partners, woven into the fabric of human life in ways that feel almost mythical. Some plants can photosynthesize through their stems instead of leaves. Leaves are the primary sites of photosynthesis, but some plants bypass them altogether. In desert environments, many species reduce or lose their leaves to conserve water. Instead, they turn their green stems into solar panels. Cacti are the most famous example, using their thick, ribbed stems to capture sunlight while minimizing water loss. Other plants, like certain euphorbias, do the same. This adaptation allows them to thrive in environments where leaves would quickly wither. To us, a cactus may look leafless and bare, but its entire body is working as a photosynthetic organ. It's an elegant solution. Trade fragile leaves for sturdy stems and let the whole plant act as one giant leaf. This shift shows how plants reinvent themselves to endure extremes, finding new ways to turn sunlight into life. Bamboo flowering is so rare it can take more than a century. Bamboo is known for its rapid growth, but its flowering is one of nature's rarest events. Many species bloom only once every 60, 80, or even 120 years. When they finally flower, entire populations often do so at the same time, regardless of location, a mysterious synchronization scientists still don't fully understand. After flowering, most bamboo dies, leaving behind seeds for the next generation. This mass die-off can reshape entire ecosystems, providing sudden food surpluses for animals, but also periods of scarcity afterward. For human communities that rely on bamboo, these cycles can be disruptive. The phenomenon feels almost mythical, plants waiting decades, even centuries, for a single bloom. To witness it is rare, a reminder that some rhythms in nature stretch far beyond human timelines, written in lifespans that measure not in years but in centuries. Some plants can grow without soil, directly in air or water. While we often think of soil as essential for plants, many species thrive without it. Epiphytes, such as orchids and air plants, grow on trees, absorbing water and nutrients from the air and rain. In aquatic environments, plants like water hyacinths float freely, taking everything they need directly from the water. Hydroponic farming, inspired by these natural strategies, now allows humans to grow crops without soil, using nutrient-rich water instead. These plants demonstrate that soil, while useful, is not strictly necessary for survival. They remind us that life adapts to any niche, clinging to bark, drifting on ponds, or flourishing in engineered systems. To see an orchid suspended on a branch or an air plant thriving with no visible roots is to witness the versatility of the plant kingdom, showing us that survival often means bending the rules we assume are universal. Flowers can produce ultraviolet patterns invisible to humans. To our eyes, many flowers appear as simple bursts of color. But to pollinators like bees, they hold hidden patterns painted in ultraviolet light. These markings, called nectar guides, point directly toward the center of the flower, where nectar and pollen await. They function like landing strips, helping insects navigate with precision. Different species display unique UV designs, often invisible until viewed through special filters. What looks plain white or yellow to us may blaze with contrast to a bee. This hidden beauty shows how flowers are tailored not for human appreciation, but for the senses of their pollinators. It also reminds us that the world around us is layered with colors and signals we cannot perceive. A meadow of flowers is more dazzling than we know, a landscape alive with invisible maps, guiding tiny visitors in from the air. Certain plants can change the acidity of the soil they grow in. Plants don't just adapt to soil, sometimes they alter it. By releasing specific chemicals through their roots, certain species can change the pH of the surrounding ground, making it more acidic or more alkaline. This ability shapes which other plants can grow nearby, giving the host species a competitive edge. For example, pines and oaks drop acidic litter that lowers soil pH, favoring organisms adapted to those conditions. Other plants raise soil pH to improve nutrient availability. These changes ripple through entire ecosystems, influencing fungi, microbes, and animals as well. The soil beneath our feet isn't static, it is constantly reshaped by the plants that live in it. Every forest floor and meadow carries the chemical imprint of its vegetation, a living record of how plants engineer their own environments to suit their needs. Some trees can pump water upward higher than a skyscraper. One of the greatest mysteries of plant biology is how tall trees move water from their roots to their highest leaves. In species like coast redwoods, water must travel over 300 feet upward, taller than many skyscrapers. The mechanism relies on cohesion, the tendency of water molecules to stick together, combined with the pull of evaporation at the leaves. This creates a continuous column of water stretching from roots to crown, rising against gravity without pumps or muscles. The feat is so extreme that scientists still study the limits of how high water can climb. Yet forests prove it happens every day, silently and flawlessly. To stand beneath a towering tree and realize that every leaf at the top is drinking from the ground below is to marvel at a living system more efficient than any human-built machine. The Amazon River floods forests that fish pollinate plants in. Each year, the Amazon River rises with seasonal rains, flooding vast areas of forest. Instead of harming the plants, this cycle creates extraordinary adaptations. Some trees flower and fruit during the floods, relying on fish to spread their seeds. The fish eat the fruits that fall into the water, carrying the seeds in their bellies until they are deposited elsewhere. In this way, fish act as pollinators and dispersers in an ecosystem where water and forest merge. The flooded forests become a surreal world, with tree trunks submerged and animals swimming through the canopy. It is a vivid reminder that plants don't exist in isolation. They are woven into webs of interaction with animals, rivers, and climate. In the Amazon, even the fish help the trees, proving that cooperation can take the most unexpected forms. Some plants use sticky hairs to trap and drown insects. Not all insect-trapping plants are true carnivores. Some use sticky hairs on their leaves or stems to ensnare small insects that land on them. Once trapped, the insect may die and decompose, with nutrients washing into the soil and indirectly benefiting the plant. Other times, the hairs deter herbivores by making the plant less pleasant to eat. In some species, like wild tobacco, sticky hairs trap insects that would otherwise damage the leaves, turning the corpses into a protective shield. These strategies blur the boundary between passive defense and active feeding. They show how plants employ countless variations on survival, mixing stickiness, chemistry, and chance. What looks like a delicate hair on a leaf may in fact be a deadly snare, designed not to nourish the plant directly, but to tip the balance in its favor against the insect world. Plants can produce toxins strong enough to be used in medicines. Many of the world's most powerful drugs began as plant toxins. The foxglove plant produces compounds that, in controlled doses, treat heart conditions. Willow bark contains salicin, the natural precursor to aspirin. The rosy periwinkle gave rise to life-saving chemotherapy drugs. These chemicals evolved as defenses, bitter or poisonous compounds meant to deter herbivores. Yet humans have learned to harness them, transforming poisons into cures. This duality, danger and healing intertwined, shows the complexity of plant chemistry. Every forest and meadow holds potential medicines waiting to be discovered. The next leaf or flower could carry molecules capable of saving lives. To the plant, it is merely defense. To us, it is possibility. In every toxin lies a hidden gift, a reminder that the boundaries between harm and healing are often thinner than we realize. Some algae blur the line between plant and animal life. Algae are often grouped with plants, but some species challenge neat categories. Certain algae can photosynthesize like plants, capturing sunlight for energy, but also move or consume other organisms like animals. Dinoflagellates, for example, can both make their own food and hunt for prey. Others form symbiotic relationships with animals, living inside corals or sea slugs to share energy. These organisms highlight how blurry the boundary between plant and animal really is. Evolution has experimented with many ways of capturing energy, and algae sit at the crossroads. To us, they may seem simple, but they represent some of the most versatile and ancient life forms on Earth. Looking into a droplet of pond water reveals this hidden flexibility. Tiny beings that remind us categories are human inventions, while life itself resists easy definitions. Trees can live for thousands of years, older than civilizations. Some trees are so ancient that they predate entire human cultures. Bristlecone pines in California have been alive for nearly 5,000 years, older than the pyramids of Egypt. Olive trees, yews and sequoias also reach extraordinary ages, standing as living witnesses to millennia of change. Their longevity comes from slow growth, strong wood, and the ability to regenerate damaged tissues. These trees are not just organisms but archives, recording climate shifts, droughts and fires in their rings. To stand beside one is to brush against deep time, to feel the presence of a life that has outlasted empires and languages. They remind us that in the plant kingdom, patience can be the ultimate survival strategy. Where humans measure history in centuries, trees quietly count in millennia, rooted in place yet stretching endlessly through time. Trees can live for thousands of years, older than civilizations. Some trees are so ancient that they predate human history as we know it. Bristlecone pines in California, for example, have lived for nearly 5 millennia. These gnarled survivors sprouted long before the pyramids were built, weathering storms, droughts, and centuries of change. Their wood grows slowly and densely, resisting decay, while damaged tissues can be sealed off to protect the tree's core. Every ring in their trunks records the passing of years, offering scientists a timeline of climate shifts stretching back thousands of seasons. To stand beside such a tree is to feel the enormity of time pressing gently against your skin. They remind us that while civilizations rise and fall, nature carries on in silence, rooted in patience. Trees are not just witnesses to history, they are living history, still breathing in the present while holding stories that stretch deep into the past. Certain plants can smell nearby pollinators and respond. Plants don't have noses, but they can sense scent molecules in the air. Some species detect the chemicals released by approaching pollinators and respond almost immediately. For instance, certain flowers increase nectar production or release their own fragrances when they detect bee pheromones nearby. others shift the timing of bloom opening, ensuring they are at their most inviting precisely when pollinators are present. This sensitivity is a kind of olfactory awareness, allowing plants to anticipate and adjust to the animals they rely on. To us, the idea of a flower smelling a bee seems strange, but it reflects the remarkable complexity of plant senses. Plants exist in constant dialogue with their environment, perceiving cues far beyond our own. When we walk through a garden, we may not notice, but the plants may already be responding to visitors in ways as subtle as breath on the wind. Some vines strangle entire trees to reach sunlight. Not all vines are gentle climbers. Some, like strangler figs, begin life as tiny seeds dropped by birds onto the branches of other trees. From there, the young fig sends roots downward, wrapping tightly around the host's trunk. Over decades, these roots thicken, constricting the host tree until it eventually dies. The fig then stands alone, supported by a lattice of its own roots, having used its host as scaffolding. This strategy allows the vine to reach sunlight in crowded forests, bypassing the struggle of growing from the dark forest floor. To see a strangler fig is to witness both beauty and ruthlessness intertwined, a living reminder that plants, too, compete fiercely for survival. Even without teeth or claws, they wield strategies of conquest, using patience and pressure to reshape the forest one tree at a time. The oldest known tree is nearly 5,000 years old. Among the high mountains of California grows a tree called Methuselah, a bristlecone pine estimated to be almost 5,000 years old. It sprouted long before written language, agriculture, or the rise of great civilizations. Gnarled and twisted by time, it survives in harsh conditions where few other plants endure. Cold winds, thin soils, and extreme weather have not killed it. Instead, they have preserved it, slowing its growth to a crawl. Each year adds only the thinnest of rings, building a body dense and resilient. Methuselah stands as one of the oldest living beings on Earth, older than empires, older than myth. Its existence humbles us, reminding us that life can stretch across timescales far beyond human imagination. When we measure our lives in decades, Methuselah measures in millennia, standing silent as ages pass in the shadow of its patient branches. Some plants survive in boiling hot springs. In the most extreme environments, where water bubbles and steams at near boiling temperatures, certain plants still manage to live. Algae and mosses have been found in geothermal springs, thriving where few organisms dare exist. Their proteins and cell structures are adapted to withstand heat that would destroy ordinary plants, allowing them to photosynthesize in liquid worlds that shimmer with steam. These hardy pioneers are studied for insights into life's possibilities, from bioengineering to the search for extraterrestrial organisms. If life can endure in boiling waters on Earth, perhaps it can survive in equally extreme places on other planets. To see green threads weaving through scalding pools is to realize that life's determination knows few boundaries. Even in environments that seem utterly hostile, plants find ways to endure, turning heat into habitat. Leaves can trap bubbles of air to help aquatic plants float. For plants living underwater, staying afloat can be as important as staying rooted. Many aquatic species have evolved leaves with specialized structures that trap air bubbles. These pockets act like tiny life jackets, helping the plant rise toward sunlight at the water's surface. Lotus leaves, for example, repel water and encourage bubbles to form, keeping them buoyant and dry above the pond. Other aquatic plants have spongy tissues filled with air spaces that keep entire stems floating. The result is a delicate balance between sinking and rising, guided by invisible pockets of air. To us, a lily pad drifting on a pond is simply peaceful. But inside its tissues is engineering as precise as any vessel, a living raft designed to hold sunlight steady above the water. Each floating leaf is a reminder of nature's ingenuity, rising on nothing but bubbles and breath. Some plants defend themselves with sharp crystals inside their tissues. Beneath the softness of many leaves lurks a hidden defense. Some plants produce microscopic crystals of calcium oxalate within their tissues, shaped like tiny needles. When an animal bites into the leaf, these crystals pierce soft tissues in the mouth, causing irritation, swelling, or even burning pain. The effect is immediate and memorable, discouraging further feeding. Taro, rhubarb, and Dieffenbachia, sometimes called dumb cane, are among the plants that employ this strategy. To humans, they can be dangerous if eaten raw, but in nature, they function as armor, invisible until disturbed. The idea that a leaf can hide a forest of microscopic daggers is astonishing. Plants may seem defenseless, but their chemistry and structure often create barriers more effective than thorns or bark. Every bite is a gamble, reminding herbivores that even the gentlest-looking greenery can fight back in ways unseen. Flowers sometimes bloom in synchrony across vast regions. In some species, blooming is not an individual choice, but a coordinated event. Certain bamboos, for example, flower simultaneously across entire regions, even when separated by hundreds of miles. The synchronization happens on mysterious internal clocks, often spanning decades. Once the bloom is complete, the plants produce seeds and then die, resetting the cycle. The result can be a massive flush of food for animals, followed by sudden scarcity when the plants die back. Other species, like some desert wildflowers, also bloom in synchrony after rare rains, creating breathtaking waves of color across landscapes. These events remind us that plants move to rhythms we rarely perceive, rhythms measured not in hours or seasons, but in decades and centuries. When the moment comes, the result is spectacular. A landscape transformed, as if the plants have chosen to sing in unison, releasing their beauty all at once. There are plants that can store memory of touch for minutes. Experiments with sensitive plants like Mimosa pudica have shown that they can remember being touched. When repeatedly disturbed, their leaves stop folding in response, as if the plant has learned the stimulus is harmless. What's more, this memory can last for minutes, even hours, before fading. It isn't memory in the way animals experience it, but a physiological form of storing information. The plant adjusts its responses based on past experiences, conserving energy by ignoring unnecessary signals. This suggests that plants are not just reacting blindly, but processing information in subtle ways. To think of a plant holding onto the trace of a touch is remarkable. It blurs the line between sensation and thought, suggesting that intelligence can take many forms, some as quiet and green as a leaf, holding the ghost of a moment long after it has passed. Some trees can regrow entirely from a single fallen branch. For certain trees, even a broken branch is not the end. If a limb falls to the ground and conditions are right, it can sprout roots and grow into a new tree. Willows, poplars, and banyans are famous for this regenerative ability. In some tropical regions, entire groves are created from branches that have taken root, each one genetically identical to the parent. This capacity ensures survival after storms or damage, turning accidents into opportunities. To us, a fallen branch may look like debris. To the tree, it is simply another chance at life, another reach toward the sky. This resilience shows us how plants refuse to be defined by fragility. Even in pieces, they carry the potential to rise again, blurring the line between ending and beginning. Plants remind us that life on Earth is both fragile and astonishing. From the smallest moss to the oldest tree, Plants embody resilience, creativity, and patience. They shape the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the landscapes we inhabit. Yet they are also vulnerable to drought, fire, disease, and human activity. Their survival is a delicate balance, achieved through ingenious strategies, chemical defenses, hidden senses, and astonishing adaptations. In their stillness, we might overlook them. But when we pause, we see their richness. Forests that create rain, seeds that wait centuries, roots that reach deeper than buildings, flowers that sense and respond to the world around them. Plants remind us that life is not only fierce but also endlessly inventive, weaving survival into every leaf and root. To walk among them is to remember that Earth's green world is fragile, astonishing, and inseparable from our own. And so we come to the end of our journey through the hidden lives of plants. From roots that whisper underground to trees that stand older than civilizations, we've seen how plants are never truly silent. They are architects of ecosystems, chemists of survival, and timekeepers of the earth itself. Each leaf and stem, each bloom and seed carries within it stories of patience, resilience, and quiet ingenuity. As you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself in a forest at night. The air is cool, and the leaves above shift gently in the breeze. Somewhere, a flower unfurls in darkness. A tree lowers its branches, resting until dawn. Beneath the soil, roots reach slowly through the dark, searching, sensing, alive. Thank you for spending this time with me, exploring the secret world of plants. If you enjoyed this journey, I invite you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join me again for the next exploration of science and wonder. But for now, let your mind quiet, your body soften, and your breath slow. The green world holds you in its stillness. Sleep well and dream among the leaves. Good night.